Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. I'm Martin Willis, your host, and we have another great show for you this evening. Coming up, we have Randall Nickerson. He's going to be talking about all sorts of things, not just the Ariel Phenomenon, the film that he worked for over 14 years on, but we are going to actually go into that somewhat and see some of the stills, these wonderful stills that he took progressively through the journey in Africa, and some very interesting people. He's going to talk about that he spoke with. They're sort of offline about their UFO encounters, and I find that very fascinating myself, going different places. And when the subject of UFOs comes up, it's amazing some of the stories that you hear that will never be heard elsewhere. And that's actually what I'm doing my talk on at Shag Harbor coming up on October 1st. Is really the unknown encounters. I'm pretty excited about going up there and doing that talk. So in the news, this came out. This is an opinion piece. Keep that in mind. But this came out, I believe it was today. And this is about Congress implying, again, it's an opinion piece, but Congress implies UFOs have non-human origins. Anyway, so check that out. That's on the Hill. I can link that as well in the show notes. And so our blog this week is called, it's by Charles Lear, as usual, UFOs and PsyOps. It's about the MK Ultra, the mind control, the CIA, all the stuff that they did back in the 60s and 70s. I think it was the 70s mostly where they did that type of thing. Another fascinating blog by Charles Lear. Also, he makes those into an audio blog every week, so you can listen to those on YouTube with some images, or that goes out in our podcast feed. Thank you so much for supporting the show, for all of you that do. Thank you all for listening. Anyone can support the show. All they have to do is go over to podcastufo.com, and you'll see the link on the top menu, support the show. For like $2 or more per month, you can really help us out. Our membership has dropped, and it would be nice if we could get more into the black a little bit. So anyone that feels like helping out, sure could. But if you can't do that, I understand. And again, like I said, I do appreciate all listeners. So here we go. Randall, welcome to the show.
Hi, Martin. Thanks for having me again.
Always great to see you, Randall. And I thought what we could do is we could sort of get the elephant in the room done with. And that is, I would like for you to talk about, I know you can't name the streaming service, but we can say it's one of the largest streaming services. And I think you were really handed, well, I don't want to say a bag of you know what, but I think you were treated very poorly, and I'd like for people to know about that. So that's one of the reasons I wanted you on this evening. And we won't end the show in a negative way, but I'd like for you to talk about that so we can just know more about it.
Yeah, I'm not someone to really want to harp on the negatives when the film is so good, it's been rated so well. But yeah, I was working with for almost 2 years with 3 separate entities, and they all knew it was great, no question. And we proved it by launching it ourselves in this sort of beta way that we launched, and getting the reviews that were there. But I really, there are people involved who are going to make the people I was involved with are making a very similar film as we speak. And
they basically, I don't want to talk for you, but they basically took all your information and your idea and decided they could do it themselves and save themselves some money and make some more money.
Correct.
That's basically it.
That's pretty much it.
And this is after you spent 14 hard years going all over the world.
And then during the process of dealing with different people through this project, it was no small deal. These were all big people. I can't, out of pocket, I had to pay 40 grand. I didn't get that back during that time. So it actually cost me money, and then when it all went down, I'm like, what are they all knew it was a winner. There was no question about that. Everybody on the crew, on their side, all knew that.
Did they wanted to cut it down though, right? Or something like that? Didn't they want to shorten it? And it
No,
would just, oh, okay. That was a rumor I'd heard, but I
they
didn't hear it from you.
they wanted to add some people that had nothing to do with the story, to be honest.
So they just wanted to change things around, basically.
Yeah, take the
And
guts out
and
of
you
it. in a sense.
and as far as I remember in talking with you about this all the way along, you said you didn't want anything changed.
Well, it was open to changes, but changes that actually had to do with the story. Like the whole idea of the film was to have the witnesses, the people that were involved, tell the story, not me. Like
Yes. Yeah.
the very people who were there firsthand to tell the story, nobody else. And that's where I would have drawn a line. But, of course, you can have all kinds of little tweaks and changes, and I was fine with that. But the people they wanted particularly to add, I felt like there was no value.
So are they the one thing that I thought was extraordinary about your film was the John Mack footage. Are they going to, is this streaming platform going to have access to that footage?
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, there's certain things that I have licensed for quite a bit of time under exclusivity.
But is it like the John Mack Foundation, for instance? Do they own a lot of the rights that they can lease
Yes,
or license out to them?
correct.
And
Correct.
money changes everything when you throw money at things.
It really does.
Yeah.
I don't know if a lot of people know this, but 14 years, like my budget was $1 million. That didn't show up, immediately or anything. I had to work for every penny of that. And every person and the people that are the unheard people are the people that made investments, donations, you know what I mean? And
Let me
those
just
those people, oh, go ahead.
I'm just putting this up for the people watching on YouTube, Netflix, and Twitch right now. Here's a picture of you early on, just to
This,
show people you were at this for 14 years.
this was Martin. This was this was the picture I took of myself in 2008. Right as I'm walking out the door to go to Africa.
Oh my God!
This is it.
That's
It's the only picture that exists of the time I left. And I'm like, I got to get a shot of myself, and all I say is, and it's video too. It's like, here we go.
That's something. Yeah.
Oh my God, look how old I am now.
Well, unfortunately, the time just ticks on. But
So the budget kind of thing, like I owe an enormous amount of money to people that made the film possible,
yeah,
and I thought we'd have it, all these contracts, all these negotiations would work out fine. That's the way it was portrayed to me. But that's the case. And that's why I'm speaking up, because there's money owed to crew, money owed to, people that hold rights. There's money owed to investors, like people that put huge money into helping make this film possible. And I will fight for that. I may not fight for my own money, but I'll fight for other people's money that they put into this. No question. So,
right.
I mean, I'll talk about this, but also it's like I'm also actively doing something and will continue to when I see something that off the mark, in my opinion.
So did you have at some point in your negotiation, did you feel as though there was a shift where, like, okay, now all of a sudden they wanted to bow out? And how did all that happen and them all of a sudden decide that, how did you find out that they decided to make their own Ariel film?
We all, I mean, it was full on go. And then all of a sudden we had a meeting, a Zoom meeting with, at least a dozen people. We'd already been going for 8 months together. Everybody was super excited. And all of a sudden somebody upstairs came down and canceled the call. And everybody's on the payroll, or not me, but every single person, it was making huge money for that meeting, and they cut that meeting off. And then I got on the phone. I'm like, what's going on? And they said, we cut it. And I'm like, well, what's the reason? And then that was really there was no reason. There was no reason. And
So,
then again,
yeah.
I called, like, guys, you got to give me some kind of reason. Like, was it creative? Was it, what was it? Like, whatever it is, I wanted to hear the truth of what that was, but they couldn't speak it, because I don't think that's what it was. I don't think it was something that was wrong with the film. I mean, they knew it was a winner. Everybody that worked on it knew. And then, the other thing it could have been was me or people I was working with. Well, all they had to do was say that. They did not. So, and then we went on to another major studio that is the largest one on the planet. I'll just say one of the largest ones on the planet. And they were also interested. And kind of the same thing happened. And then I ran into, everybody's wasting my time, essentially, in the film's time. And that's why I had to launch on my own, because I was going to my rights were going to run out.
Oh, I see.
And
You're right.
I understood that.
Yeah.
And then I realized, oh yeah, no, that ain't going to happen. So I had to launch on my own.
So you have rights up to a certain point, and then after that, you lose those rights, and that means that the film couldn't be launched if you waited another year?
Correct.
Whew. Boy, that's a lot of pressure in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, man.
So someone somewhere, let's just devil's advocate, somewhere in the upper management said, hey, this is a really cool idea. Well, hey, instead of paying out this money, we can do it for X and do it our way and whatever we want to do. So,
and that's something I don't know if people are aware of. People in the film industry are, most of, like, all the big name streamers, that, like, they're not taking documentaries anymore. They'll take it, but they have to have their creative input into it, right? They have to essentially own it. I mean, that's really what's going on. You can talk to a lot of documentary filmmakers. Amazon stopped taking independent documentaries, because anyway, you can look all this stuff up, but the business has changed. Not that these things haven't happened, but the business models of streamers has gone through quite a different change. And it's very hard to make your own film and get it out there without having influences from the big boys. And to me, I got to tell you, that is censorship. I know that's a big word to say, but when you can't do a movie and it's great without somebody else stepping in to make their changes for whatever reason that to me don't make sense, that is control.
Yeah. Well,
and control of whatever message the film is saying.
I spoke with another filmmaker that that we all know, and I just don't have his permission to say, but basically a major streaming platform basically told him that they would have all the rights to all the footage for 10 years. And he bowed out because he didn't want to be constricted in any way like that. For 10 years is a long time to not be able to have access to your own property, basically. And so he walked out of that deal. And maybe that's part of the changes you're talking about that have happened. Is that?
Yeah. And I've talked to some people on the inside of some friends that are on another streaming platform, which is actually doing really good right now. But I think it's partly because of their attitude, and their attitude is, if you screw the little filmmaker, they're never going to take their stuff to you.
Yeah.
They won't.
Sure.
And the way certain people have been practicing that I've run into, they'll never see me again. And I won't speak a good word to any of my filmmaker friends about it, because I want to warn them.
Yeah.
I don't want them to go through what I went through.
Yeah. Well, Dean Aliotto, a mutual friend of ours, he's out there. I'm hoping he's listening right now. I know he is,
Mhm.
but he's out there with his film now, and in the process of some of the work he's done. And yeah, I mean, I always I would kind of like to think, wow, why don't all these guys get together and make a movie like
I'd love that.
the big three?
I'd love
Yeah, you could really kick butt out there.
it. I
Yeah,
think so. There's enough
yeah,
of us, and we're all so different, and our interests and knowledge about this topic are it's a
yeah,
lot of knowledge there.
yeah. And yours goes way back for years, but long before you ever got involved in this. And I'm going to bring up some of the stills, but first of all, before I do that, how is the film doing? I just got a notice the other day. You just dropped the price, putting it out there again. And so you can get it for 14. For those of you who have not watched it, to me, it's an amazing film. I've watched it several times. I love it. It's this, in my opinion, as I've said many times in this show, I consider this one of the top encounters. I always say it's my top number one or two, because of all of the credibility it has with these children that have grown up now. They're in their 20s, and the drawings right from the beginning, and then John Mack going out and interviewing them a few weeks later. The BBC guy, I'm trying to remember his name, got out there.
Tim,
It's just all so good. And I've had 3 or 4 of these people on my show, and their accounts of what happened is just totally blows me away. And the consistencies that they have. Some people say, well, the crafts look different, the people, the beings look different. But here they are, kids, they're just drawing from their memory. But the best part about it, one of the best part, in my opinion, of that whole thing is the teacher making them go in and draw pictures right away. I think that was brilliant.
mhm.
And we probably wouldn't have the case. You probably wouldn't have the film you have if it
That's
wasn't for that.
and that was Cynthia Hines' suggestion, to be honest, to the headmaster to have the kids draw. People that say that, you got to realize, like, when they were doing these drawings, they were all different ages. They were all different. That was me and Judy. All different ages, all different. And their art was all completely different. Their perceptions, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they drew whatever they, in their own mind, saw. But the problem is, everything they saw was strange, right?
Right.
Whether they draw it a certain way had to do with their skill, And really, what the key is to this whole thing is body language during testimony.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So I've got, there's somebody working on that right now, like for a paper, which is fantastic, because it's somebody that's a professional in this particular thing about, things where you see where deception and, different types of body language tell you.
That's right.
And
Yeah.
it's very subtle things. It's down to a math, and
Oh, it's down to the way you. I'm in the middle of a course. I've been taking a body language course, just because I thought it was fascinating, and I don't know, partway through the courses, it is really fascinating what people do. You look, first of all, you look for a base, like what someone normally does when they're telling, like, a story of something that that is truthful, and then it's quite amazing. There's one on, I'm not going to talk about it too much, but there's one on Bob Lazar that's really fascinating. So, and what they've done with that. And I'm not going to give any spoiler alert on that. People can look it up themselves. But,
cool. I like that stuff.
Yeah. So that's great. And so do you know how many of the kids actually went with the streaming platform and to remake their own version of your movie?
3.
3 of them. Okay. So that's, I mean, I feel a little better about that. It's not like, 12 of them or something.
Well, there may have been at the scene. I don't know. I mean, I can only hear, what people share with me.
Yeah. Yeah.
But same idea.
Yeah.
Take the witnesses back to where it happened.
Yeah. Well, if they don't have access to John Mack's film, again, I think that was such an important part of the movie, and
Yeah,
because
I
it
agree
was,
with
yeah, I mean, there's probably he was probably one of the best people to interview those children in the entire world at
I
the
agree.
time he interviewed them.
I agree. He went farther than anyone else, and that was his contribution to that, really.
Right. Right.
But the film is doing it's doing okay. I consider this the beta phase because I realized, you know what, there's not going to be any. I've been on and off the phone with producers and Netflix, sorry, not network people, and I just found
That was a Freudian slip, by the way.
yeah, and so I'm gonna start doing theatrical releases, and one here in October. LA as soon as possible down in Hollywood so I can put it right in your yard. Boston and then New York.
And
Yeah,
and I know the one you have coming up, you're not really announcing it, but it's but I hope to attend that, and it's not far
great.
from where I am right now. Yeah. So, and these are three theatrical releases, and to me, that's what I want to do. I want to see this film in a theater.
In
You
a
have a
theater,
great soundtrack. You have, I mean, the filming is just remarkable, and the little subtle things that you put in here and there, and that you put in through editing are just absolutely fantastic.
yeah, in a theater, we did screen it before, you know, just to see how it looked in a theater with crew and a few friends. And oh my gosh, just the sounds and all the different sounds, you really hear it. And it's a different experience. And when you're sitting in a big room with, at that time it was 12 people, but when we got finished with that movie, there were 3 people in tears.
Yeah.
That's for real. So
Yeah.
I'm really excited to see, we did so many test screenings but it's going to be interesting to see a packed house and see how the audience takes it in, how it affects them. That's what makes me curious.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Here's a question up here from Indie Syndicate Productions. Yeah. So he wanted me to ask you about your Rotten Tomatoes score. And by the way, if you've watched this film and you feel like I do, please do go to Rotten Tomatoes and read a review, write a review on that.
I mean, that's the biggest reward of all, is your ratings. And on Rotten Tomatoes, it's been between 90% and 100 ever since it came out.
Yeah.
IMDb, it's been over 9. I think it's at 8.9 right now, but I don't even watch movies, that are that high because they don't exist. There are very few that exist that are in that category.
Yeah.
So that's like, to me, the greatest reward, no matter what's going on with all this, is like, no, it's good. We did did my work. My crew did my work. My investors did their work. The ones that are owed a lot of money, so I feel it's kind of weird to feel pride, and I'm sure everybody on my team feels the pride of it, but there's just the reward isn't there, and not the reward to make millions of dollars, the reward to pay everybody for what they did.
Yeah.
Really, that's really what it is. It's like my crew. I mean, I had crew volunteer. I'm like, I can't pay you. Let's start, and there are several people on my crew who did it out of heart, not out of money.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I swore to, and it's I did legal things on paper, say you will get this money, period.
Mm-hmm.
And that may take me, who knows, depends on what happens. But if it takes me years to do that, it'll have to take years. So
Someone
people don't understand. It's not just me, or it's not just the film. There's a whole bunch of people behind this, that have sacrificed.
That's right. Here's a question someone's asking. I think you actually did speak with James Fox. They're wondering why you didn't get advice from James Fox about these things that you're talking about. But you and James did talk about this.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Well, he had similar issues like all of us.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
So, I mean, what's interesting is this is a breaking story, right? That's kind of in its infancy, and God, those poor people back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s who also did what we're doing, which is try to say hello, what something's going on here. But there's just no question at this point the relevance of these films and the films to come are important, not just to important to our society, important to our world, you know.
Mm-hmm. No, and I think the world is more open to actually. I mean, this is really good. I know your film took forever to make, and people were complaining forever about how long it was taking. I think I was telling you I was getting like an email a week for a long time. So that means you were getting 50 emails a week. When's your film coming out? When's your film coming out? When's your film coming out? And you must have got tired of hearing that. And I remember when it was post-production and you were trying to sell it. And was that 2 or 3 years?
Oh yeah, that was a good 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a long time to be in that phase of it. Long time.
Long time. Even though we were in negotiations with different people, I mean, I was still my crew, Chris, Rick, we were still like, how can we make this better? So during that process, we were still working, but it did delay us a lot. We would have been done. People give you hope. There's ways people tag you along,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you wait and you wait and finally you realize, oh yeah, that's exactly what they want you to do. So you're not doing anything else. And then, at this point, it's like, yeah, no, that ain't happening anymore.
I remember when you were in the editing process, and you and I were talking, and that was so much.
I lost your audio.
Going in and out. Is my microphone going in and out?
You're back. It was just a crinkle.
All right. I'm going to try plugging it somewhere else.
You're fine now.
How's that?
Yeah.
We're good. Okay. Here's another question here. Someone wanted to know, will there be a DVD? And if so, will there be extras on it?
Absolutely.
And any ideas? Do you have any ideas in a year or something like that? Any ideas when I'm going DVD?
I think once we do the theatrical launches and get enough to get out of the hole, so to speak, then that'll be a no-brainer. We'll start selling them, put the DVD together with all the extras, which there's a lot of, and then the making of, which is a whole nother project, but that's also going to be very interesting because of what happened during the making, not just on that level, but the things that happened in Africa were absolutely fascinating and dramatic, and it's just an interesting film just on that level. But that'll be an interesting film as well. But yes, for the DVDs, we were definitely going to have extras, and there's just a lot more information people don't even know about that a lot of people have never seen, to be honest. And these are a lot of the interviews of the kids when they were younger. You can only put so much in a movie,
That's right. And go ahead. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
One of the things I wanted to do in the beginning was just play the archival from beginning to end.
Oh, that would be something.
I mean, it's interesting, but it's not a story. But it is a story. But I mean, the power of seeing these kids talk about this over a long period of time. Just let the tape run. That's how I was thinking. For a good 20-minute section, I just wanted to let the tape run. But again, I got advised not to do that. But there's tons of that material. And it speaks volumes.
I bet.
So I would love to, in the DVD, there's no question there's going to be a lot of extras. Yeah.
Right. Now, this question, this person, I believe, has not seen your film. They want to know where they may be able to see the movie soon on streaming. You can stream it right now. It's go to arielphenomenon.com, right? Isn't that where it is?
Yes. It's on arielphenomenon.com. When you click that rental thing, it goes to Vimeo. So Vimeo is our platform, so to speak, for now. we're on the line with Amazon right now. We could launch any day with Amazon, but again, there are complications with that, which that's not okay. In
Well, I
my
was
opinion. And
I'm
don't get anyway.
well, I'm a little bit excited to hear about Amazon. That'll just open up all over the world. And about any movie you want to watch, you can find on Amazon and just pay the rental fee. Be it a different fee than you're talking about normally.
Correct. It gets a little more complex than that. But I know that's why it's a button push right now.
Yeah,
But there are other reasons that need to be openly talked about, and we have not had that conversation yet. And it needs to happen, or we're not going to do it.
I
So
see. Yeah,
we'll do it another way. We'll go around a different way to do it. But I mean, it's just complicated. People have no idea, like unless they're in the business, to all that goes on, and all the things you never expected to have to do.
yeah. You sure find out when it's
When it's in your face,
Yep.
either deal with it or you walk away.
That's right. I was at a cranberry bog down here in the Cape yesterday,
Yeah.
and I was listening to this organic cranberry bog, and I was listening to the work they put in. I said to the woman, I said, "Did you have any idea it was this much work when you started? When you get here?" And she shook her head. No way. It's like if people only knew how much work was going to be in something, would they have started it?
You never would have started it.
Yeah.
My first grand piano I rebuilt, I was like, yeah.
Yep.
4 years later, it was done. And you know how many times I wanted to quit in between?
Yeah.
And just say, screw it. I don't want
Yeah.
to do it.
Had you ever felt that way about this film? Did you ever want to quit
Oh,
doing this
God,
film?
yeah.
Really?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Probably every single year.
And what made you keep going?
The story.
Yeah.
The story. Yep.
Well,
and the people involved in the story, they had faith in me.
Yeah.
I couldn't quit for them. The witnesses, the other people in the story.
Mm-hmm.
That was what kept me going. And I did, like, there were times where I just I got to stop for a month.
Yeah.
And gather my thoughts and rest.
Mm-hmm.
And go to the next process. Was a lot of times I got to raise money so I can do this.
Yeah.
And then get that done. It was like, great. And then you come up to another mountain and got to deal with whatever that mountain is. And the thing I didn't really expect so much was when it got into like, oh yeah, we got to do legal things here.
Yeah.
Lawyers. I'm like, geez, man.
Yeah.
Expensive. Contracts, all that stuff. I didn't want to do. I wanted to do it right, completely. But I had to get a little bit of a legal education, which that was never on my list ever.
But I don't think anyone would start a film thinking about any of that in the beginning. It seems like, just this exciting venture that you're going to, get involved with, and I don't think the legal aspect really people think of that too much.
No, more
and
toward the end.
Yeah.
It started off for me like creatively. I just came off a 20-minute film. I was shooting another film that I was had already shot all the footage, and then Ariel came along because of Dominique Unpublished.
Oh yeah.
After she saw my 20-minute film, she's like, "Do you want to do something about this?" And I said, "Absolutely." So I started right away on that. And I was thinking creatively, like, oh, I want to tell this creative story about, this event. And then within a short time, it was like, wait a second. No, I have to be an investigator, like an investigative journalist, because I've got questions. And I'm sure as hell not going to put out a film unless I answer those questions for myself. So then the next 5-6 years, it was all about digging and taking, not being creative whatsoever, just doing facts. Testimony. And then I had to go back to being a creative person. It was a very odd journey. And then I was like, wow, yeah, this is kind of how I started. And then once you get into the editing, then you can get back to, making a movie from this stuff. It's already been vetted and looked at in every possible manner. and now I can take what I know is true and put it into the film. And then kind of in that process, it's like, who owns that footage? Oh yeah, no, we got to talk to that person, and then we got to have a contract, and then we got to, the whole everything becomes paperwork in a lot of ways once the creative process is solid, and it's not what I expected.
Now, Dominique, I know she was with John Mack when he went to Africa.
Yeah.
Yeah, and did she help you along the way, or was it did she kind of like give you the, the suggestion and help you get started?
She held a few fundraisers for me in the beginning that were extremely helpful to get me off the ground, to get over to Africa, in 2008 to 2009. Yeah, over the years, she's been very helpful. She hasn't been like part of the crew or anything, but as far as she also put me in contact with somebody who was very helpful on the financial end.
Oh, that's good.
Yep. Yeah. And thank God for that woman, because
I reached out to her years ago trying to get her on the show. She was not really interested in talking about it at the time. But
yeah, I think once it goes real mainstream, because she's got we all have our businesses and what we're doing.
And she has a professional occupation.
Correct.
Right. Yep. So I understand. Here's something I don't exactly know when the new UFO footage will be released and from what country it's from. Do you understand that question?
Mm-hmm. It was a mistake I made during an interview.
I think I heard about this. Okay, yeah. Someone alerted me to this.
Should not have mentioned. So I can't say anything. I should have never said anything, and it's not whatever.
Yeah.
You screw up when you're on live TV and or live. And it's just that was my bad. Like I shouldn't have even said it.
Yeah.
And when a lot of things like about other things, it's on your mind a lot and it can slip out. That's what I'm wondering by doing interviews is like, yeah, you got to put that in the closet. You mentioned that. There's certain things that I could mention.
Yeah.
That aren't going to be beneficial for me.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah. And that definitely can happen. I've had something similar happen before. I'll put it that way. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Like we all do, or anybody that's,
Yeah, when you're live, a lot of times. Yeah. Can you clarify if the children drew that day or days later? Wasn't it that same day? No, it was days later.
Well, it may have been a few people in that first day, but they sat them down on Monday morning.
And when was the sighting? Friday?
Friday.
Yeah. So they had the weekend. That's too bad they didn't do it right away, but that is still pretty fresh.
There was a time thing there too. Like, they all went home that day around 1:00. So the incident happened at 10:30. It was a commotion, and then they all had to go home. So there wasn't really time for them to do that. And the teachers were like, nah, they didn't think, those kids had to go home over that weekend or that day and tell their parents.
Right.
And the parents called the school to tell them they need to take this seriously because my child is telling me this story that makes absolutely no sense to me. And it was the parents that really made the school take it seriously.
Wow, that's actually great, really.
It's true.
Yeah, I saw that in your film where John Mack is up there in front of the parents and talking. And that was I had never seen that before, and that was really something.
Yeah, that's a rare piece of footage.
Yeah.
So we found it. So glad. Yeah. But yeah, there's a lot to this story for sure.
Here's another question. Any chance of this in the San Francisco Bay Area? The screening?
After LA, probably. I would love to do that, actually. I think I'm going to have to take it on the road.
Yeah. Well, anyone listening to this show, if you have any connections and you think you can help Randall, please do get a hold of me and I'll connect. I'll connect people.
I appreciate that. Yeah, because we're, it's at the point where it's like, you know what, I'm going to have to sling this over my shoulder and carry it around wherever I need to.
Here's someone along those lines asking this. I think the promotion could be more mainstream. What is your marketing strategy? I don't know if you want to address that or not, but
Well, I know. I mean, it's been a big problem because, you know, most films like this, their marketing budget is 350,000, 400,000. That's just for marketing. It shocked me, but I
oh
get,
my God. Oh wow.
yeah. And the big films, like the film I was working with when all this went down, their budget was 2 million for promotion.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And that's how you get a world, you know, that's how you see it in the taxi. That's how you see it on the billboards, see the commercials, all that. That's where all that money goes. So I never had that. And I definitely don't have the money to do that. Unfortunately, I have hired promotionalists that won so far. And I have my eyes out, but we just don't have the resources to pay for what's actually necessary.
What about any of these indie film festivals? Is that something you can even do? Would it fit the criteria?
Yes.
Uh-huh. Is that something you would ever consider? A lot of these kind
Oh,
of do a soft launch through that, right?
well, yes, exactly. And that is another avenue. We tried that 3 or 4 years ago when this was before 2017. Um, you know, the December 2017. And then nobody was interested. And then now a lot of people are interested. We're submitting now. So,
Yeah. No,
but
you and I have talked many times about how so many things have changed in the last few years, and you know how people are. There's still stigma. There's still a stigma, but
yes,
people are
it's
at
going to
least.
take years. It's going to take
It,
years.
it will. There's a lot of questions in chat, and I do thank you all for posting all these questions. I'll try to get. Um, let's see. I'll try to get some of these up that Randall can address. People are having website. They're unable to. Oh, do you know anything about this particular thing?
I don't.
No, we're going to look at. He's going to look into that. If there's any,
Absolutely.
maybe the millions of people watching the show right now are trying to watch. Right?
I should
That
text
was a joke. That is a
away.
joke. Yeah.
Um, sorry. I think that's important.
I'll remind you of it after the show.
Okay.
But here's one now. Do you have any idea what these visitors were up to?
No,
None of us do, really.
not really. I mean, the fact that they, um, from the witnesses themselves, that these things approached a group of children on a playground, you know, that's what I do know is like, wow, what was that? Was that curiosity? I mean, what was that about? I've had people say maybe their um, craft had some mechanical issues. Maybe it was the uranium mine, which was within 2 miles of the school. Um, I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine, but there are some possibilities there.
Well, I personally wonder if it's the children, the that are that because there's so many of these schoolyard sightings all over the world, you know, and I know you said you had like 30,000 emails to get to, but I remember I sent you an email with a woman that had a South African experience back in, I think in the 70s, you
Hmm.
know, but all over the world, these school children, these are humans that can be influenced and changed. You know, I mean, they're open-minded at that age. A lot of people are, you know, I mean, like, oh, what's this? This is interesting, that type of thing, and not like, oh my God, you know, there's. So I think I think there may be a reason the reason may be that they are children.
You know, I agree with you. I've had that thought a lot. It's like, how are you going to influence the future when you know the future's in trouble? You go to the kids
Right.
because they're going to
Yeah.
grow up with those images that were projected into their heads and knowing that that's going to happen and they're going to make changes. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know if that's the case, but it's definitely one of the top things that I think about. when I think about why kids, but that does make sense.
And I think it might have been our friend Dean that said, "Did you notice they didn't give them a solution? They just showed them." You know,
They are the solution.
the kids are the solution.
But
Yeah.
yeah, no, that's very true. Like, well, if you're going to tell us about it, what are you going to do? What are you doing about it? You know, exactly. You know, that kind of thing.
Now, I'd like to shift gears a little bit, Randall, but we can, of course, go through these really interesting pictures. This person,
Ah,
wow.
this
Uh,
was the father of one of the groundskeepers who witnessed what happened in 1994. This was his dad, and I went to his dad to see if he knew about these other creatures out there. He's a Sangoma, which is a witch doctor. So you know, a very religious person, animism. And of course, the same answer. It's like, yes, we've known about them for a long time.
and yes, and at some point, I know we don't have a whole lot of time left. I
Sure.
would like to discuss. I'm just going to go through some of these
There's
pictures,
Samba.
but I'd
Yep.
like to discuss some of these people that have told you about their own encounters.
Sure.
And it is probably none of these pictures that I'm sending here. I'm just
Cool. Can we
for
go
the
back to that other picture there? No, one forward. Right there.
yeah.
So this was the moment in December of 2017 when we're all editing. That's Chris, Rick, me, and on TV comes the Pentagon release at the end of 2017 in December,
Isn't
and we
that
all
something?
stopped and we're all watching TV. Because we're working on a movie about it, and we're like, "You got to be kidding me!" The TV's on commercial right now, but that's why we're all looking at the TV. We're like, "Are you kidding me?"
Oh,
It was
that's
just a funny
fantastic.
experience.
Yeah.
I videoed it. I took video of it, but I pulled a still out of the video because it was just a moment, you know. We're like, what? We're working
Yeah.
on a movie about this, and it's on national TV.
Yeah. That's
That's my
great.
little bear that comes occasionally.
Is that in your house in Massachusetts?
Yeah, it's right outside the door.
Oh, I guess I won't be visiting you there. And let's see, that's
There's my crew.
there's your
Our
crew
crew.
right there. Yep.
Yeah, that's Rick, Rick DeGrease, Chris Seward, Rebecca Rideout, and myself.
Oh yes, Rebecca, I've talked to many times.
Yeah, it's a
Through
great
email.
group of people.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah,
And there you
Alaska.
are.
Yeah.
And so we'll just go through these real quick, and I want you,
Yeah.
if you would, um, you can chime in. These are such great shots. And by the way, you have some beautiful African wildlife photography on your website. Just
Mm.
amazing.
Yeah, I would. So this is where I live right here.
This is where you live right
I'm
here.
in the middle of this big forest. Yeah,
Wow.
huge, 800 acres is crazy. It's all owned by the state, but to me, the animals own it, and that's cool.
Yeah, and they do.
This is a picture for all those people that think Earth is flat. I had to go up to 9,000 feet above my house. I'm right above my house, and I had to go all the way to 9,000 feet with a telescope to shoot Manhattan. That's Manhattan from Massachusetts.
Oh my God.
So I'm really like, and you can't see it until you get to a certain altitude, right?
Yeah, you
Like
just
I
all
can
see.
see Boston from 6,000 feet
Yeah.
with a telescope, and this is in a plane. But I have to go to 9,000 feet because of the curvature of the Earth to shoot Manhattan. And this shot was, oh my God, it just brought New York and my life in New York and my life in the woods close.
Ha.
Yeah.
Interesting.
One of my wisdom people, his name is Viva. I hope he's still alive. He was a very important guide to me in Africa.
Oh, cool. Wow. What a beautiful shot this is. And for those of you listening to the audio, you can easily, switch over to the YouTube, which is always in the show links. And this is about at 48 minutes in, and you can see all these great pictures. Where's this whale? That's not Africa.
Yeah, that's in South Africa.
That is? Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Just happened to be in the right place at the right time with an incredible whale and had the right lens on.
Amazing. Amazing.
Yeah, southern right whale.
Wow.
That's the Boston shot from 6,000 feet. Was the same, but the weather was terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They
these
are.
are 550-pound males.
Wow.
Yeah, they're serious. Anyway, yeah, this is where I learned everything in 2008. From this wall, I got all the names of these people.
Oh, is that right? So
Yeah.
you got all their names, and then you started the worldwide search for them because they
Yeah.
scattered. There was a problem in South Africa, and they scattered, right?
Yeah, Zimbabwe was under, yeah, it was not okay to live there anymore for a long time. Still, it's not great. But yeah, that when I stood at this wall was the moment of saying I can find them. I got their full names, date of attendance, so I know who was there, and that began it. And that was the moment of like I can find them. You know,
How many of the kids did you actually find?
43.
That's amazing.
And there's tons more out there. I just ran out of time, money, and there were so many countries I just couldn't. Australia, I couldn't get to. I couldn't get to New Zealand. I couldn't get to Germany. There were so many countries I couldn't get to interview some of these people because they're all over the place.
Now there is a misconception. They're out there everywhere you read about the Ariel incident. It'll say 62 school children. It was a lot more than that, but 62 were above the sub-primary level, right? Isn't that what it was?
Well, honestly, it was 62 drawings.
Oh, that's what it was.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a lot more kids.
Exactly.
I see.
Exactly. There were 2 classes that were not allowed, that were just kept away from the situation entirely, and didn't do any drawings or anything else. But I interviewed a couple of them, and they're actually, what they saw is there's some interesting interviews there.
There you are. That's your piano. Yes.
That's my grandfather's 1888 A.B. Chase grand piano, which I rebuilt when I was 20 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, it's in my living room.
And
yeah, my other life, my $10,000 aircraft that I bought, doing spins, which it's rated for, totally legal, but an awful lot of fun.
Yep. I did a little bit of that for a while.
Did you?
Lessons. Yeah, I took lessons.
Great. Oh,
Yeah.
it's
I
such
still have my logbook.
keep
Yeah.
it. You never
Yeah.
know when you're going to go back. But yeah, it's just a great perspective of the world,
Right.
Not when
And
you're in
this is the school right here, isn't it? Aren't we at the school right here?
That's the school.
Yep.
This is actually no. This is the area. This is the landing site area, just left and a little further of center, is where that thing came down.
I see. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
Which is there weren't houses there before or anything. This is just an overhead of the Ariel school, the playground, and the kids.
Okay. Oh, I remember this shot. I remember the scene from the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you're driving in. Wow, that's a heck of a camera lens, right there.
Yeah, when you do wildlife, you kind of you build a hide. Not all the time, but if you really want to capture something that lives in a certain area, you camouflage I'm in a hide, totally camouflaged tent covered with brush, and that's what you do. You sit there for an awfully long time.
Wow. So we just lost KGRA radio. They went offline. I just got a message from Bill over there, and so I didn't get a chance to say goodbye to them. But we'll keep going here for a little bit. And this is the teachers, right? But isn't this more of a period shot, or is this when you were there?
This is when I was there. Yeah.
Oh, okay, I see it now. Yes.
Our teachers.
I see Emily right there. Yeah.
It's pretty much the whole school except for Emily. All the people that work there. And some just, I don't know, man, there were some beautiful people there.
Kissing up to a zebra.
Yep.
And that looks like Yosemite's Half Dome.
That is.
Yep. Yeah. And there many times.
Have you? Yeah. What a beautiful place.
It is. It's gorgeous. These are just different shots.
Oh yeah. Hey, this is in Zimbabwe after working 18 hours a day for about 8 days, and they couldn't get me off the ground. I just went out the lawn and boom. I just fell asleep. It was great.
Funny.
But it's not it's not a pretty picture, but it's the truth. And this is one of my favorite pictures because this is the attitude I had over there and on this project. It was like, all right, let's go.
Looks like an Indiana Jones shot.
It was, yeah. Aerobatics training.
Oh wow.
This is the picture of us getting intercepted by the Zimbabwean Special Forces because we were shooting at a sacred site and we didn't have a permit to do so.
Uh-oh.
And they sent the Special Forces. So I'm sitting in here on the chair. They're telling me what I did wrong and what it's gonna, oh my God, what are they gonna take us to jail? What are the, we had no idea what was gonna happen. They held M4s. I wish you could see the guns in the picture. But they said, no, you need to stay here tonight. There was me, Nikki, Chris, and Emily, and we got into our rondavel, our very African place we're staying, and we barricaded the doors.
Wow.
Because we were like, dude, they're coming in tonight. There's no question.
Yeah.
So we barricaded the doors, and then one of our crew members put all these things between him and the door that someone would have to trip over. I mean, it was a story. I mean, I'm glad we got that one picture, and Chris took that. That wasn't me because I'm the one in trouble. But yeah, it was just like none of us knew what was going to happen that night. But there were several times like that. It's nice when it gets on camera because you can say, no, it really happened.
Yeah, that is scary when you're in a place like that. You have no control.
Third world country, dictatorship, military. Yep. They don't mess around.
Yep. And
this is Chris' picture of me. Oh my God. I was just trying to get a shot. Didn't have a ladder, but I had a car.
I'm going to assume it's a rental car.
Yeah, I had to.
with scratch marks on top. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
A friend of mine. Oh my God, Chrissy took this of me. I love this shot. I don't know why, but it was for her who took it. This was in South Africa when yeah.
Wow.
That was my garb.
That was your beginning before you left. This, I believe, we showed before.
This was when we were doing the drone footage. Yeah.
The drone. Oh, that's your
drone shot.
The drone right there. I see.
Yep. He's steering the thing. I'm directing camera.
That's never a good sight.
No, that
Lightning
happened.
from the. Yeah.
Yeah, that was my plane alone.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just one of those pictures. I'm like, yeah. Oh, Judy.
So Judy is the headmaster now.
Headmistress. Yeah, that's
headmistress.
Yeah. She runs the school. She's a really fantastic woman.
And what are these notes you have? That's your storyboard right there. Wow.
One of our early storyboards. Yeah. Yeah.
This is great. And this is how you have to start most vehicles in Africa, right?
We did this. Yeah, we did this so many times because there's no gas station anywhere. Like, there's no battery chargers or plugs around. When you break down or you stall it or whatever, and your starter doesn't work, which amazingly a lot of starters do not work over there. So they rely on people pushing it to get it started. And this is what I had to do over and over.
That's amazing. That'll keep you in shape.
Yeah, it was great. It was cool to be with all these people,
Oh, I bet.
And trying to we can do this and do it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So this was.
Yeah, there you are again and again. That is just so funny. But
that's Ariel right there.
That's Ariel right there.
The only picture I have of me shooting Ariel from the site, from the landing site area, because I wanted to get the perspective of whatever that was that approached them.
It's 20 hours.
Yeah. Judy, the headmistress again, her and I having conversations.
That's another shot of that. This is early on, as you can tell.
That was very early on when I was doing the research in the archives of one of the biggest newspapers in Southern Africa. Yeah.
Oh, that must have been interesting.
It was very interesting. It was, I mean, you can look like they still keep everything in files. Nobody's databased or anything.
No microfiche.
Well, there was some, but not at this particular place.
Mm-hmm. There's a shot of Emily looking out toward the school, right?
Yeah, I love that shot.
Yeah. which is in the film. Now, Emily, so that's it basically for the pictures. Thank
That's
you,
great. Yeah.
Paul. So, Emily, in the film, for those who haven't watched it, you can really see the emotional toll that this whole thing has taken on her in particular.
Mm-hmm.
And are there other people that you have talked to that did not make the film that also have a very emotional?
Definitely. Matter of fact, somebody that I could have had in the film, but I do not think it was in this person's best interest to be in the film because of the where they were as a person, with it.
Mm-hmm.
I do not think it would have been helpful for this. I just don't want to name any names. This person. So
It's like a PTSD type of thing, right? I mean,
yeah,
post-traumatic stress.
yep.
And I can understand. I can totally understand why that would be. So for
And
the
then it gets
remaining,
compounded by, after the fact, it gets compounded by your family and whether they believe you or not.
that's yeah, that
And then
must
it
be.
gets compounded by society for the same reason.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens is people end up alone with nobody to talk to. And like we were talking about before, about these witnesses that see this stuff and never say anything, except to people they know are working on this subject matter.
Right. And so let's talk about that. You told me, briefly, that you spoke when you were in South Africa. You spoke to a number of people. And can you discuss some of their stories that you were told?
Sure. I mean, there's so many. I mean, a lot of them I documented and I've, did audio and video when they had allow me to. But there was plenty that said, don't tell anybody I told you this, and made that statement after they told me their story of what they saw. But there was one that was very interesting. Two businessmen and their wives and kids, and they were in on the south coast of South Africa, and they had witnessed while I was there an extremely bright light off into the ocean, right, which was right there. I went to the place, and they said that light came from under the water, and then all of a sudden, some type of triangular, massive object emerged from the water.
Huh.
They were stunned, and they watched it. One of them grabbed a pair of binoculars to look at it. They describe it perfectly as like the detail that they saw. And that thing went up to the cloud deck and then disappeared into the cloud deck, and at the same time was starting to alter its course to south because they were looking toward the east. But this was something that they'll never forget, and they'd never even thought about that. And their question to me was, I would like to know what it was.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything like that. I don't know where it was from. I've never seen anything do that, because he said it just floated silently up to the clouds.
That's what I was going to ask you, if there was any noise at all. No noise.
None. And then within like 5 minutes, a small airplane came over the same area, which has made a lot of noise. But they saw this thing kind of float. It wasn't a balloon. They knew that. They were looking at it with good binoculars. Look, I mean, story after story, it's like, well, I mean, it always frustrates me, and I'm sure it frustrates a lot of people. It's like, why is this not being discussed? Not because, I guess some people think we can't do anything about. I don't know what it is. They don't want to be embarrassed. They don't think we could do anything about it anyway.
That's kind of what I've always thought about the Air Force. They can't do anything about it anyway. So, and even now, you don't hear too much from the Air Force, do you? When you hear from the Navy, even, Congress, you hear from NASA, but you don't hear too much from the Air Force. And I've always thought, maybe they just can't say, what's flying in our skies. We have no idea what it is. Maybe it's like something that they just feel they can't say, if that's what the case is.
I think so. But I can tell you for sure that they've had a very big interest. That I know.
Yeah.
But I mean, maybe they'll be the last. I mean, everybody else they're going to be forced to speak up at some point. that's a no-brainer, and there's plenty of people that have a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And I like someone's idea. Someone on my show said this one time, and they said, why not offer like an amnesty to, pilots, from way back, the ones that were just so they can just plain come forward and talk about what they know.
I think that would be a good idea.
Because
I
there's,
think regardless of what other people have done in the past, I think the gravity and importance of the fact is way more important than any of that.
right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And I mean, if it is the announcement that, NASA recently said they're going full bore into the UFO, UAP topic, because before they said they were I think they were procuring only $100,000 for a study. And to me, that's like, that's like a person's salary type of thing. It doesn't make sense. But now I've
It's
heard
putting a few
they're
GoPros up on the shuttle or on the
yeah,
rocket. So
that's right. That's putting something up. Yeah, like a grapefruit up into the space. It costs that much, but into the International Space Center. But anyway, I think it's interesting that they're saying that they're going to really look truly into it. I don't know what the details are of that yet. I had a number of people email me about that.
So I think the plan's pretty simple from what I see is expose everybody to the fact that these things are out there flying around. We don't know what they are, but it's going to eventually be very clear that it's not us, right? And then we get to well, what's in it? Who's piloting it, right? That's the next split stage, and then we get to talk about people who have run into them in contact. They're never going to talk about abductions or anything like that. I doubt it. But that's kind of the path. A lot of and it makes sense. You can't just dump this on people. Like, you've got to take them slow. It's a big deal. You got to take it slow and take one thing at a time. And the one thing they're doing now is saying, okay, these things are out there. What are they? Which is a great place to start. I know a lot of people are impatient.
That's right. Yeah.
And it's critical that we get on it. I mean, thank God there are the people that there who are taking it very seriously. And those people, like, speak about the Air Force and military, I guarantee you they know what's going on. And
well, I think they know more of what's going on.
Yes.
If not exactly what's going on. So I want you to address this because if this is true, I talked to 10 people that watched your movie and they all said they wanted to see all the kids' interviews. And that's frustrating to know there is more. Well, you only have a platform of so much time.
Yeah, there's like 4 hours of it. I mean, and that was a choice because, we had to get across what we had to get the story of what happened across, and with what we had, and the other stuff just was more of the same in a way, but also extremely valuable because they're totally different people with totally different perceptions of it. But there was no time. But that, I still have the rights to that footage. I'd love to do something much more serious just about the kids' experience. All of them. Yeah. All of them were documented at the time. And there's all of them. I mean, there's probably at least 60. That's on the archival.
Wow.
So almost all those kids did an interview.
That's great.
Even the ones that weren't interviewed at the time did get interviewed years later. Back in 1996, 97.
Wow.
Anyway, I understand the talk.
Yeah. So here's another one. Why not go on Joe Rogan? You and I talked about that. Is that Joe had an interest at one time?
I don't know. I mean, I've had a lot of people. I've had some pretty famous people contact Joe and like, hey, Joe, what's going on? Like, why aren't you?
Yeah.
You should, or do it. And I've had promotion. I've written them. Other people have mentioned it. I have no idea. Maybe it's part of his schedule. I know he doesn't talk about this stuff all the time. But there's a lot of people asking me that question now. Like,
Yeah.
why hasn't Joe done this?
That would be a really good launching pad for more. So for many
Great.
more views.
I agree.
Absolutely.
It would be
Yeah,
really helpful.
it would be. So if anyone out there has an interest in helping Randall get this Ariel phenomenon promoted a little more, try to figure out a way to get a hold of Joe Rogan, or some of you may know how to get a hold of him, and let's get Randall on Joe Rogan's show and get this thing out there more. So this question up here: were there any missing person reports in the area at the time of this incident? That's an
Yes.
interesting question. Do you
Yes.
know? Did you say yes?
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that?
Well, they found her 24 hours later, unconscious.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Is this the one that no, there was someone, I'm thinking a whole different incident.
She was from the area, not from the school. And it was one of the things in the investigation that got looked over. You know what I mean? I really wish they followed up further on this this woman. It was a female. But yeah, she was missing. They found her. She was unconscious. I mean, somebody even mentioned it to John Mack at the time, but he was just he kind of went like, well, they call this a certain thing when that happens, and I'm like, oh no, because he was so focused on the kids. But that, you know what? What's great is hopefully that's why I want to get this around more, is because those people are going to come forward, and to somebody anyway, if they don't go public themselves. But that's the other thing. Like, that's kind of what I'm waiting for, because I don't want to keep talking on. I want to get to work. I want the witnesses to come forward, the people that also saw that aren't even in the movie. Like, that's really what I want, is like those people that, because this story was not a small event, and it touched a lot of people's lives, not just the kids. So I look forward to that. And once we go, on bigger whatever, Joe will bring in witnesses. We'll do the whole 9 yards. But that's what everybody's waiting for. It's like, all right, I'll keep talking for a little while until we get to that point.
Now, how long did the entire encounter last? Now, this person may not be aware. A lot of people are not aware there was things going on for days.
Correct.
Or at least a few days, right?
Correct.
And there was a pilot. A pilot saw something, and
multiple pilots.
Mm-hmm. So the incident itself.
Airline pilots, not just small plane pilots.
Yeah, commercial airline. So the incident itself at the schoolyard, when that period, the recess period was over, and they had to go inside, were the beings and the craft still out on the yard?
I don't think anybody really knew, because everybody was in terror running the other way. But as far as time, there was one witness who a female, I think she was grade 2 or 3. She said 15 minutes. The headmaster also said 15 minutes, because it was at John Mack asked him, how long was this going on? And he says 15 minutes. Anyway, I have 2 references to that time period. And it always strikes me every time I think, it's like 15 minutes is an awfully long time.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I mean,
something like that to go.
A lot of people will mention encounters that were, in the seconds.
Yeah.
That lasted a whole 30 seconds.
That's a good question. Good question. Whoever that was great.
Yeah.
Because it's important. Stuff like that, details like that, which I don't really get to talk about too much, because that's more the investigative stage of like, okay, what'd you find out here? What'd you find out there? A lot of people just are like, oh, it's about aliens. But it's like, no, actually, I drilled down in every single angle and direction I could to figure out what was going on. Because I just didn't want to take it as face value. I wanted to find out what was going on in space, what was going on in the country, what was going on on the world, in all different aspects. And who are these people?
Right. Someone wanted to know if any one of the kids became clairvoyant or had the ability to heal. Do you know anything about that? Anyone ever talk about that you spoke with?
Yes.
And which
I'm
one?
already smiling. I can't say.
Yeah.
That's
And
what I'm like.
which
I thought,
ability did they have?
um,
Like a clairvoyance or healing?
hmm. I would say a little of both, to be honest.
Hmm.
Yeah. But I get it gets tricky here because I cannot mention anybody's names. You know what I mean?
I get that.
Um, but I've had, there's a lot of experiences I've had with people involved with this and that were witnesses to this that's up to them to speak about.
Usually, when a film like this comes out and it gets a lot of reach, you start getting connections. You start getting people reaching back to you saying, "Hey, look, I was, uh, 50 miles away and kilometers away or whatever, and I had something happen." Has any of that happened with you?
Yes, it happened. It happened in the beginning. Once I first started to when when I got on a few radio shows in South Africa. Thank you to Nikki Carter. That's when I started getting those phone calls about,
Excellent.
because I was calling for witnesses on the radio stations over there. Was anybody there? Then I started getting calls, emails, and calls of again, a lot of interviews that are not in the movie,
Mm-hmm.
but relevant, like within 25, 50 miles, other people witness this thing.
Interesting. Here's a good question. Are there by chance more teachers, staff that witnessed this event that have not been interviewed?
Yes.
So, as far as we know, the outside, as far as I know, I should say, there was one that did come forward and say she was actually on the playground and witnessed it. And was there more than her?
Yes.
So they were just afraid to talk about it. What was the deal?
Um. Well, yes, I think the headmaster at the time, because it was all about the kids, right? The concern was about the kids. The parents were calling about the kids. The school did not want to draw much more attention to this than was necessary, and the headmaster was the headmaster. If he told you not to talk about it, you didn't do it. And there were 3 witnesses, females, teachers that were in different locations at different times, and I've just kept that quiet because the fact that the kids saw this themselves is I thought was more important than that.
Yeah.
But I knew that it would come out,
Yeah.
and there's no question that's going to come out. But I don't think I needed to. I investigated it, wanted to do it in the film, but then again, I was like, you know what? How much can we have in this? And
Yeah.
also, I look forward to, what makes a film greater than when witnesses after the fact that aren't even in the movie come forward, especially people that were at the school. But that exists, and whoever asked that question, I'm sure they might have heard something recently. But yeah, it's true.
Yeah. Well, I think it's always interesting to have cooperation from an adult when children are involved. Nothing against children. It's just that people seem to feel more comfortable if an adult would say, "Oh yeah, well, the kids aren't all crazy," that type of thing. I'm not saying
I
in
agree.
particular this in particular, but in a lot of cases, this is just a compliment. I think that it's always nice to see. It's not surprising that this took 15 years to have a finished product, especially done in the taste and pride and accuracy. So
Thank you so much.
nice
And
little
that's not
comment.
just me, that's my crew, that's everybody that was involved, and I appreciate that. And I'll pass that on.
And have you ever thought about writing a book? How about writing a book about doing the movie?
Well, I think there's only so much you can put in a film. So
Yeah,
I think and that has been a discussion that happened last week. But I can't do everything. I'm already on a couple other projects, and it's like, how am I going to do a book? You know what I mean? I'm going to have
yeah,
to get a ghostwriter. I
yeah.
can't.
Ghostwriter. That's what
I
you
can
did.
literally dictate the entire story because unfortunately it is not out of here yet, and it probably won't be for a while.
That
And
might help you.
I
Yeah.
need space, so I'd love to get it all on a book because I know it. I know it for day, hour for hour since the beginning. So it's just a matter of how much time do I have, and just sitting there and actually rolling camera, and then they can translate that onto a paper. Because I think there's so many stories I want to tell, that you can't put in an hour and 39-minute film.
Someone wanted to know, getting back to that triangle that lifted up out of the water, they saw the light first. What was the approximate location of that?
That was just south of the port of Durban.
So in South Africa. Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
And
I have location, and I did interviews right there with these people, which hopefully will have the chance to publish that, because those are the kinds of things which I did a lot of that tell a lot about this story from different perspectives.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Another one was these people were on a football field in South Africa, and they all witnessed this thing come out of the sky and go into the ocean. And when I interviewed this guy, I interviewed the headmaster of this school. It was probably 300 miles south of Ariel. It was actually in South Africa, maybe 400 miles, Pietermaritzburg. And I interviewed him, and he said, "You're not." So there was already an agency here from the U.S.
Really?
Yeah.
Jeez.
And when he said that, I'm like, who? What? An agency from the US that was, and he said, yo, no, they were very official. And I'm like, we don't investigate UFO. This was back in 2008. We don't investigate UFOs. That's what I told him. He said, well, they were here.
Amazing.
That was interesting.
Yeah.
Anyway, I interviewed him, and it was in the papers at the time because so many people, the kids were out on the football field, football in,
yeah, they call it football when it's soccer, right? Or something. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if it was a rugby game or a football game, but I know all that. I just can't remember off the top of my head. But and they all witnessed this thing in the sky, and then they saw it just go underneath the water because their field was elevated and the ocean was just right there. Wow. But he also had messed everybody. There's a lot of witnesses to that thing. But so funny. There's so many stories, and so many people don't even know about them.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I love that, and that's like one of the things I want to expand on more is getting more of those stories. I've asked and I'll throw this out there again. If you're listening to this show, you may or may not have had a UFO encounter of your own, and I'm always interested in talking to someone if they had a very unusual encounter. If you want to email me at martin@podcastufo.com. I put up a couple of clips that people absolutely love, of their encounters that they had. So I just talked to you first on the phone and figure out if it's something I want to put up on this YouTube channel and podcast. So, but Randall, thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure, and maybe I'll see you this Thursday. We'll see.
Yeah, that would be great, and I appreciate the time and appreciate the honesty.
Yes, and thank you so much for your hard work. It's been a real pleasure. And if I don't happen to see you Thursday, I'll see you out in Phoenix.
Yeah,
in October. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. All right. You take care, and I'll talk to you soon. All right, everyone. Okay. Thanks so much. We'll be back next week with Laura McDonald, and that should be another interesting show. And thank you for tuning in. And remember to keep your eyes to the sky.